As per usual on the 208, all week we've been following new and evolving legislation that's coming out of the session in the early weeks, and it looks like Dr. Rhonda Thompson in Boise has been paying close attention. She said, so let's review this week in our legislative body. Teachers and guns, Wild West all over again. Legislative reps who had science classes 60 years ago before research was conducted on intersex people and have no desire to learn about intersex people, abide by their biblical teachings. We as a state are heading to a really hot place with 2L. Could be anything. Well, Rhonda, that was part of it. This week, we also focused on 8 different bills, including hunting with collars, mandatory minimums, expanding the Attorney General's powers, repealing the Blaine Amendment. Oh, and there's much more. Parental choice credit for schools, concealed carry licenses for school staff, defining gender and sex in Idaho code, as well as Medicaid conditions. So, well, there's a lot that happened this week, so why don't we wrap up the week that was. Here's your legislative recap. Monday, we introduced you to new legislation preventing people from requesting public records to find the location of wildlife so they can hunt it.
Well, for 100 to do that is completely unethical and against fair chase.
House Bill 404 passed the House yesterday, 56-12, with 2 absent. It's now headed to the Senate. Also on Monday, we talked more about House Bill 406, which adds fentanyl to the list of drugs in Idaho that carry a mandatory minimum sentence and creates the crime of drug-induced murder. It took nearly 2 hours to debate it on the House floor. A lot of discussion about why this bill isn't the best option.
This bill demands incarceration without making any distinction between dealers and users, without making any distinction between first-time people who made a mistake and serious bad guys.
But others say something has to be done to curtail the drug crisis in the state of Idaho.
We've already waited a year and lost Idahoans to this deadly drug. We need to act today.
House Bill 406 passed the House 55-13 with 2 absent. On Tuesday, the bill was read for the first time in the Senate and referred to the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee. On Tuesday, we touched back on House Bill 390, which expands the Attorney General's powers to investigate city and county officials.
And I just don't see a compelling need to expand the powers of one individual.
Despite pause from the Democrats, House Bill 390 passed the Idaho House, and with overwhelming majority support after a 54-15 vote with 1 absence. That happened on Tuesday. Wednesday, the bill was read for the first time in the Senate and referred to a Senate State Affairs Committee. Also Tuesday, the controversial House Joint Resolution 1 was introduced to repeal the Blaine Amendment, which is a law that regulates our schools and means that the state of Idaho will not and cannot fund religious schools with public dollars. But
repealing this constitutional clause would provide an easy path for the passage of ESA, school voucher, or tuition tax credit legislation.
The argument?
There is actually no such thing as an irreligious people.
The resolution is held in committee. Chairman Crane could revisit it soon. If it moves on, the resolution would amend the Constitution, which needs a 2/3 majority at the State House. Then it would go to the ballot for a vote. Which brings us to that legislation introducing public dollars for private schools, House Bill 447. We saw it last session as an education savings account, but now it's a parental choice credit. It lets parents and legal guardians be able to choose educational services that meets the needs of their individual student. And it would allow parents to claim a tax credit, up to $5,000 per student or $7,500 for kids with special needs. But there could be a hit to Idaho's general fund, up to $50 million each year.
I absolutely defend and will promote a parent's right to choose where their child gets their education. Nothing about this bill touches that.
House Bill 447 is now awaiting a public hearing in the House Taxation and Rev Committee. On Wednesday, the highly debated House Bill 415 was on its 3rd reading on the House floor. The bill would allow school staff to conceal carry in Idaho.
I support the idea and the concept of standing up for ourselves, but my real concern is that we're not authorizing and really demanding the training.
The Idaho Parent Teachers Association, the Idaho Education Association, and even the Idaho Association of School Resource Officers have spoken against the proposed bill. Yet, it did pass the floor 53-16 with 1 absence. It is now filed for a 2nd reading on the Senate floor. Yesterday, House Bill 421, proposing to make the word gender mean the same as sex when referring to male or female, was back in action. Self-proclaimed word girl, also known as Representative Julianne Young, says that it's necessary to have clear definitions to communicate and to craft policy. but making gender binary cuts out of part of the population like intersex individuals.
But it's not scientifically accurate.
Despite its gray areas, House Bill 421 is set for a third reading on the House floor. Last but not least, House Bill 419. The bill would attach additional conditions to Idaho's Medicaid program. Medicaid is the second largest budget behind education. Now Republicans want to trim the fat, but supporters of expanding the program say there's just a disguise for the actual goal, to repeal the expansion entirely.
No other state has succeeded in getting the federal government to sign off on the exact same requests that this bill puts forward.
The House Health and Welfare Committee is holding House Bill 419 for now, but Chairman Vander Woude says they could bring it back soon. And that's a legislative wrap. And you, the great viewers of the 208, had a lot to say about the list of legislature that we covered this week. So we wanted to give a little extra time, as you always request, to get to some of your comments that we didn't have time for during the week, like this one from Michal, talking about House Bill 421 on gender definitions, writing, "I loved your piece explaining the meaning of intersex individuals. I worked in the NICU for several years as a nurse. We occasionally had babies born with what was determined as ambiguous gender. It wasn't common, but it definitely happened. This bill recognizing only two genders does a true disservice to intersex individuals as well as our trans community. Politicians should stop trying to make laws considering medical issues that they have no knowledge or understanding of." Thank you so much for the comment. Carol commented on House Bill 419 regarding Medicaid expansion, saying hashtag the 208. "I remember what happened in our state before we had Medicaid expansion. Every year, there were stories about Idahoans who died because they couldn't afford health insurance. Shame on any legislator who wants to return to those days." Carol, again, thanks for the comments. A few comments on House Bill 415, allowing concealed carry for school employees. Larry, for example, said, "Amazing that anyone can get a gun, carry it anywhere in order to be a hero. The problem is there are no heroes unless you wear a badge or a military uniform. Everyone needs to stay in their own lanes." Hashtag the 208 from Larry. A lot of great comments. We're excited to see what comes out of our State House next week. We'll keep a close eye on it for you. Why do we trust a rodent to predict the spring weather? Can Punxsutawney Phil really predict the future? We're dialing back some science on the event while also reintroducing you to an old Boise friend at Zoo Boise. What do you think about Groundhog Day, or really anything on the program? Text us, comments, questions, feedback, criticisms, comics, really anything. Here's our number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We're going to get to your comments live at the end of the show.